And welcome back to Scarred for Life, the podcast where we open up old wounds by looking back at the films that scared us as kids. I'm Terry.
And I'm Mary Beth.
In each episode, our special guest brings with them a movie that traumatized them as a child.
This week, our guest is Madeleine Koestner. She is the director of the Unnamed Footage Festival in San Francisco, which is happening on March 23rd to the 26th of this year. And it's dedicated to the wild world of found footage, faux documentary, and in-world camera horror, aka all of my favorite stuff. Welcome to the show!
I am so happy to be here.
We're so excited to have you here and get to talk with you, particularly about your movie choice, which, boy, I cannot wait to dig into that. But before we do get that far, let's talk about the Unnamed Footage Festival. How did this come to be? How did you get involved? What is it? Let's hear it all about it.
Yeah. So, man, it's a little of a kind of meandering story, but so let's start with I moved to San Francisco in 2016, and at the time, and it was for work, so it was like, oh, I guess I'm moving across the country for no good reason except money. But at the time, I had been running another film festival called the Philadelphia Unnamed Film Festival on the East Coast, which was just a regular genre fest, just an underground film fest. And that still is in existence. I only program for them now, but they are still going strong in Philly. But I had moved to San Francisco with no friends or anything, and so I started hanging out at Terror Tuesdays at the Alamo Drafthouse New Mission there. Mm-hmm. And that is where I met a group of people who called themselves the Overlook Theater. Okay. Russell, Oksana, these are the people I run the film festival with now, but I got introduced to them there, and when I first met them, I'm like, hi, I'm Madeleine. I write for Fangoria. I run a film festival. And they're like, who's this bitch? Like, who's this pretentious snob? And why is she talking to us? And the more that we ran into each other and talked, the more they were like, oh, actually, she's okay. And then we started like hanging out on the weekends, getting absolutely wasted, watching horror movies all the time. And it was like, you know, so fast we had become such good friends, and I was going to fly back to Philly for the festival, and I invited them to come along, and they did. And they didn't know that a film festival could be anything other than, you know, like Sundance, like, you know, all prestige and, you know, lines and guests and people, you know, being fancy. And so this was the first time they had been to a real underground film festival, and it blew their minds, and they're like, we want to do this, but we want to do it for found footage horror. They were working on kind of becoming the go-to found footage horror people. They wrote about it. They, you know, had made so many connections with filmmakers, and they're like, this actually might be the perfect way to, you know, get this out and get people to recognize it as more than just, you know, garbage, you know, like, you know, low-budget shit that people made to rip off Paranormal Activity, because there were so many artists like working in this space and making these crazy movies. And like the way we kind of talked about it was, we're going to make rules about what we show, and in order to screen something, we have to completely justify it. So it has to be either found footage horror, faux documentary, which we use instead of mockumentary because people associate mockumentary with with like comedy. And even though mockumentary, the mock is actually mocking the documentary form, but like either way, we're like, we're going to call it faux doc to be, you know, even more like pseudo smart.
I call it pseudo documentary because I got a pull up my ass apparently. So like, even I better. Get
it. And then we added first person POV, and then we added screen life. And so anything that fell into these genres, we were able to show. And if it broke too many rules, we couldn't show it. We talked about it like it was the, like Dogma 95 of horror filmmaking? Yeah. So we started doing the film fest, and it was just a blast. We do it at the Balboa Theater in San Francisco. We are in our 6th year now. And like we have programmed some of what I think are like the best found footage horror films ever made, and not because we programmed them, we sought them out because we thought they were, and so we're just like really proud of what we've been able to do and present, and you know, bring people out and inspire so many people to work in the genre.
I went last year and it was the best experience. It's like, it is so fun, and y'all really do have such an incredible eye for like these projects. And I know that you have a really awesome programming team to find these like projects that are so like under the radar, like no one has heard of. I mean, y'all were one of the first to screen the Outwaters, which was like absolutely incredible. And I wanted to hear more about like how y'all source and like what the process is and like what the programming process is like for finding these movies, and maybe in talking about it, like weave in some of the cool shit that's coming this year. To the festival, because you got some really awesome stuff on the lineup.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the first thing is we just have a film freeway. So we take open submissions. Anybody can submit to us. We get a lot of submissions that don't meet the format, and then we have to email them and let them know. It's like, hey, you shouldn't have submitted this. It's a regular
this is
narrative.
Not even remotely or
this is a real documentary. Or this is an experimental film where you throw rocks in a lake. I hope they don't listen to this. But we also do a lot of scouting. So we have Thomas Burke, for example, who is like a scholar of found footage horror. He scouts
former
for
guest
us.
of the show.
I love Thomas so much. I just had a beer with him in Austin, actually. It ruled. Like, what a cool dude.
He's so cool.
Yeah, and he's very excited for the program also, because, you know, we are actually going to screen one of his white whales this year.
Okay.
Which is a film that was formerly titled The Tontine Massacre and is now called Tontine, which was made in 2011. It was a faux reality TV show. So they went to Fiji. They had Peter Jackson's production studio come out with them. And they shot... Really? Yeah, no, seriously, like, this is a major movie. They shot this, basically reality TV show gone wrong. So the contestants are basically, you join the cast by pledging your life savings. And you put the title to whatever you're pledging into a safe. And you have a key. So each cast member has a key. And if you lose your key, whoever gets it gets your life savings. So the goal is to get as many other people's keys as possible. But it is, just supposed to be straight reality TV.
Right.
And it clearly goes wrong. Uh-huh. But the thing that's so incredible about this film is when they decided to do it, Paranormal Activity had just come out, the Blair Witch had been such a big deal, and they're like, we want to do a found footage horror movie on steroids, and we're gonna do the craziest marketing campaign that anyone's ever seen. So they got, I believe his name is Rob Mariano from Survivor, and they asked him, like, he's going to be the host, and he was, of course, like, super famous from Survivor and The Amazing Race or whatever the hell he was on, and so he was doing all these press tours, and on every interview he would plug Tontine as a real reality show.
That's so freaking wild.
And so they got all this footage of real people doing things to get on the show, submitting audition tapes, and no one knew it was fake.
Holy shit.
Oh.
And then...
What the fuck?
And then the movie fell into limbo. Wow. It played at 2 film festivals, and my understanding is they couldn't get a good enough deal. So, they were looking for a certain amount of money, certain type of distribution, and they couldn't land it. In my opinion, the film was way ahead of its time. And that's why, like, people were like, we don't know what to do with this. This is too crazy. And, like, now it makes complete sense. But because of that, it just disappeared. So there's no record of this movie. Like, people don't even know it was a movie. They still think it was a reality show that got canceled.
Holy shit. Yeah,
and Thomas came to me with it. He's like, hey, can you find this for me? And I'm like, I'm gonna. So I did.
And you did. Jesus.
I'm crazy. I'll look up people's contact. I'll call random phone numbers. I send Facebook messages out. And eventually I got to someone who led me to the director, who led me to the producer who owns it. And he sent me a copy. And you could see how many times it had been watched. 13. Wow. So me and 12 other people, other than the crew, have seen this movie. And, whoever saw it at the film festival back in 2011. Right. But
Wow.
It's really fucking good. I'm really excited.
Oh my god, well, I'm really excited because guess the fuck what? Terry and I are going to the Unnamed Footage Festival this year together. We're so excited to be going and watching this movie.
Yeah, and in addition to attending, you're also jurors.
Yes.
Yeah. So we have just like an incredible jury this year with the two of you on it.
And, only our listeners will be able to know that right now.
Haha! Exclusive, a podcast exclusive. Well, I wanted to know, like, how you got into found footage. Like, how did the path lead you to loving found footage and being one of us that loves found footage so much?
That's a really good question. And, like, earlier today I was thinking about it, and I'm like, what was the first found footage horror movie I saw?
Yeah.
I think it was Paranormal Activity.
Okay.
And I can't
what a good
come
one to start
up with anything that I saw prior to that. And the best part is, like, I was completely, I was very blah about it. It, like, didn't do it. It didn't impress me at all.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
I'm trying to think of, like, what I watch next, because I definitely, like, start getting interested in the genre. I think a big one for me was this movie called Hooked Up. If you've heard of it.
No.
Yeah, I saw it at a film festival in Denver. It was at the Mile High Horror Film Fest.
Okay.
And I was there representing Fangoria. I was, like, hosting some Q&As and, like, writing some movies, and I'm hanging out in the lobby, and I'm getting ready to leave. And these two guys come up to me and they're like, hey, you have to stay for the midnight movie. We made it. Here's a ticket. Even though I have a badge. Like, I don't need a ticket to anything. I just walk right in. Mm-hmm. They're like, here, we got you a ticket. We really want you to see our movie. Oh. And I'm like, okay, that's really sweet. I think maybe I'll, like, wander in, watch some, because it's going to be after midnight, and then I'll leave. And about 5 minutes in, I'm like, holy fuck. This is incredible. It's two kind of bros.
Okay.
And they are traveling through Europe, and they're shooting everything on their iPhones. And it's extremely naturalistic. Mm. Like, the footage cuts in and out all the time because they really are taking these little iPhone videos. They're, like, interviewing each other. Like, where are we at? Where are we going? Who are we partying with? They're, like, taking photos of girls. And then it turns into a haunted house movie. Oh. And it was the realism. I don't think I had seen anything that, like, reached that level prior.
Okay.
So, like, that really stuck with me. And I think after that I started actually seeking out found footage.
Oh my god, the guy who directed the OG Orphan and House of Wax is an executive producer on it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Fuck actually, yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
That looks so good.
It's
I've
really
never heard
good.
Of it. Okay, that's going on. See, I think I know found footage, and then you were like, "Hello, I've seen so much." It's incredible.
You've definitely seen plenty of films that I haven't even heard of. So
isn't it great loving this weird genre of, like, random things that, like, 5 people have watched, and you're like, hey, you want to watch this creepy thing I found on YouTube? Like,
yeah,
it's the best.
I mean, other than that, it was really hanging out with Russell and Oksana that, like, got me fully initiated. I was interested in it as an art form because, like, I have a film student background. Like, I am sort of a pretentious fuck. Like, they were kind of right at the beginning. And I'm really into formalism, which is experimental filmmaking that is more about drawing attention to the form than it is about the content of the film. So, like, movies, so there's this guy named Paul Sharretts who is an experimental filmmaker who, like, does films where it's each frame is a different, like, neutral color, and so all it is this pulsing and flashing, and it's actually not about watching the movie, it's about recognizing the frames and hearing the sound of the projector for 40 minutes. The film is called Nothing. But, like, that's my shit.
Okay.
Huh.
That's a lot.
Was that Stan Brakhage movie, like Mothlight? That's literally just, like, pieces of, like, stuff on, it's like 20 minutes of just, like a flickering.
Exactly. Yeah, Mothlight is beautiful.
That is a beautiful movie. I say that And I do find beauty in that stuff.
Yeah. So I see a lot of formalism in found footage too, because it isn't that they're drawing attention to the form. They are tricking you about what the form really is.
Yeah. Oh, it's the best. But then you also are supposed to recognize the camera. Like, you're supposed to know that's being made, which is so cool. And, like, you are... And it draws more attention to you as a viewer, and, like, you are watching it. You're so much more aware. It's, like, it's not passive, which I think is what I love so much about found footage. It's, like, not a passive art form. Like, you have a much more active role, even if you don't think you do.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
Anyway.
So... I want to talk a little bit more. What else is coming to the fest that are like you're really excited for?
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited about Tontine. I can't shut up about it. I'm really excited about. We're gonna show. We always do some repertory screenings. Like we'll like try to show stuff that like might be better known or maybe has been forgotten about. So like we are doing Cloverfield with the Alamo. It is the 15th anniversary. It's on 35 millimeter. It's like one of the best movies ever made. And we are also going to show a film called Yes, you have Cloverfield.
I have it's the 4K pre-release they just did.
Oh my god.
I had to get it.
I should own that. I'm like psyched to watch it on film too.
Yeah.
We are going to show a movie called The Tunnel.
Okay. I've heard you talk about this one, I'm fairly certain.
Yeah. Actually, The Tunnel would have been early found footage for me, too, because I was really into bootlegging when I was younger.
Oh, okay.
And The Tunnel did this really interesting thing where they released their own movie via BitTorrent.
Oh.
Oh, did they really?
That was the official release of the film.
Oh, that's fucking cool. I love that.
That's awesome.
They did this, like, crazy, like, proto-NFT thing. Like, NFTs, they're, they're not going to exist for another decade. And they sold each frame of the movie prior to shooting the film in order to fund it. So they financed their own film via sales of images.
What the fuck?
No fucking way. I didn't know about the movie.
And then,
fuck.
Because it was, crowdfunded in a way, and this is like before Kickstarter, it like really takes off.
Yeah.
Like, Kickstarter came out around the time they were doing this. So it's like people weren't using it for film financing yet. And then they're like, well, it was financed by the world, so we're going to put it on the internet. And they put it on torrent. So you had to torrent it to watch it. And I torrented it. Like I like downloaded the movie on BitTorrent. Cool. Yeah. It's like, it was kind of groundbreaking, and then, of course, everybody forgot about it.
Right.
But they made a documentary about it, and about doing that.
Yeah.
So we're going to show the documentary. It's called The Tunnel, The Other Side of Darkness. That is the North American premiere. It's only played in Europe and Australia. And then we're going to show The Tunnel right after it, because when we watched that doc, I was like, I can't wait to watch The Tunnel. I need to watch it right now. So
I'm excited to see the documentary because, like, this year they're putting out everything in like a really nice like package. Like, because I feel like it's the first time it's been like available on Blu-ray. Because I watched it on YouTube. Like, it's always been a shitty rip of this movie somewhere.
Yeah,
like it's never had a release.
I don't think there's been one. Yeah, there was only a DVD, but like in Australia.
Yeah, so I think they're doing like a Blu-ray package this year. Finally, it's like actually getting like the release it deserves. That it's not like kind of grainy, but. Again, it does kind of add to it when you're like, I can only find it on BitTorrent or on YouTube, and it's like not great quality, but it adds to it. I'm so excited you're going to have that, because that movie is so fucking good. And one of the scariest moments when a certain something picks up a camera.
I know.
Fucking terrifying. Like, absolutely.
Oh, I can't wait. I've not seen this.
It's a banger. You're gonna love it.
It's a banger. Excuse me.
We are gonna premiere Robbie Banfich's new film, Tinsman Road.
Yeah.
It is wonderful. It's very different from The Outwaters. The Outwaters is like, really like ballsy, insane, surreal horror that is like, you can't breathe when you're watching it. And Tinsman Road is far more, like in mystery, dealing with like interpersonal relationships and like what happens when, death strains them. It's really good. It's very, very subtly scary. Like, it's the kind of like creeping dread where like you don't realize your heart's pounding until you feel it like pounding out of your chest. So yeah, we're the world premiere of that, which like we're so grateful that Robbie enjoyed screening Outwaters with us so much that he's like, we want you to do Tinsman Road too.
He's so great. I love him.
Yeah, he's the best. He slept on my floor when he was in New York, and he kept calling me mommy because I kept bringing him things.
Yeah, that sounds about right. That sounds about right for Robbie Van Fitch.
Yeah.
What a guy. What a guy.
All right, let me think. Other highlights.
You had said offline, or maybe Mary Beth did, that you guys are going to play Horror in the High Desert 2?
We are going to play Horror in the High Desert 2.
I've not seen the first one, so that's my goal this weekend is to watch that. That
is our closing night, so it's going to be the last thing we play Sunday night. It is so scary.
The second one is? I'm stoked, because the first one, like, definitely caught me off guard with how scary it is.
No, this one is like, it's not going to catch you off guard how scary it is. It's going to scare you.
Hell yeah.
like you won't, you will be terrified watching it.
Yeah.
It is intense. It is
cool.
It is clear that Dutch learned a lot making the first one, and now he's like a master. I'm so excited for it. Yeah, seeing it in a theater is going to be incredible. Yeah.
So cool.
We're showing a Screen Life film called R#J.
Yeah, I saw that at Sundance a couple of years ago.
You did. So you've seen it, because this is another one where it premiered at Sundance and then it kind of vanished. So very few people have been able to see it.
I'm excited for people to see it. I think it's really interesting. I think it's cool to see a story like this told in that way. It's cool to see. Shakespeare will never die, apparently. Like, literally will never die. Like, everyone will always put Shakespeare in movies, and now we have a Screen Life Shakespeare movie, which is pretty exciting.
We always try to program a few things that aren't like straight horror, and so like this was one where like it's a really good exploration of the Screen Life format. So like we were really excited that they're gonna let us have it.
That's so cool.
We're also going to do 2 shorts blocks, which we haven't done a shorts block in a pretty long time, because it's always it's really hit or miss when it comes to shorts. And normally we'll have a handful of really good ones that we want to pair with features. This year we got 2 40-minute long movies, and we're like, well, what do we do with this? I think we should make 2 shorts blocks, one for each. One will be hybrid and experimental, and so that is going to be like my file corrupted shorts block. The other is just straight horror. So the straight horror block is anchored by a movie, I believe it's going to be the world premiere, called The Rage 2. The Rage 1 was a short film we showed 2 or 3 years ago.
Okay.
And it's like a body cam movie. So it's, guy with a gun goes into a house and discovers there's zombies in the house. It's very short, very scary, intense. And they had such a good time making it. They're like, well, let's expand this into a 40-minute version. And it literally feels like playing a video game. Like you are in a haunted house with this guy, and zombies are coming at you. And so it's basically like you can see his hands and his gun, and you're kind of tethered to him. Yeah, so it's like body cam POV.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Oh, that's gonna be fun.
And then we've got a handful of really good, like, straight horror shorts to pair with that. There's one called The Fallen Woman, which is really cool. We've got a movie called Shadowban. It's just like a solid block of like found footage horror shorts that are really focusing on horror.
Cool.
Hell yeah.
And the other block is anchored by a 40-minute long film called Digital Video Editing with Adobe Premiere Pro, the Real World Guide to Setup and Workflow.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds like my life right there.
It is a Korean film set entirely in Adobe Premiere Pro.
Oh my god.
What?
Yay! That's already scary.
Yeah. It is mind-blowing. This movie, it's so smart. And we were watching it, we were so mad we didn't think of it, Like, it's all just watching the video and, like, seeing them editing it, and then, like, scares happen. It's brilliant.
Oh, that's exciting.
That's fucking cool.
Yeah, and also in that block, we're gonna premiere Brian Lanano's new film. He made a movie called Gwilliam. He's a short filmmaker. Gwilliam Crowhand. He makes these really, like, batshit crazy, gory horror movies. And he made something called Content, the Lo-Fi Man, that was very inspired by Tetsuo.
Oh, shit.
Is about a guy being forced to make content. And I'm very excited about watching that with a room full of people. I think people are not going to know what to do while it's playing.
All right.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
I love being uncomfortable in crowds of people.
Me too. I mean, that's why I run the Found Footage Horror Gauntlet Festival.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
All right, let me highlight one more movie. It is a science fiction film called The Gulf of Silence.
Okay.
Ooh.
This is a faux doc, and it is a talking head interview with a woman who saw a UFO and then became a UFO expert. And just about, like, her experiences, you know, being in the scientific community and being kind of, like, denied by everybody who used to respect her. Also seeing things that, like, just are absolutely crazy, and, like, her interactions with the government and all that. A very beautifully shot film. Most of it is just anchored on her face, and she's a very just, like, fascinating looking actress, like, very emotive with her eyes. And so it's just interviews with her. A woman named Mina Rhodes, also known as MK Rhodes, a female director who has done mostly science fiction. She made this, put it online when it was finished. Like, it was something she did as an experiment early in COVID. And basically, Russell and I had this conversation recently about, like, what happens when you make something that's too convincing?
Oh.
And generally what happens is you get harassed for saying it's not real. And she was being bombarded with emails, messages, people finding her address, phone calls, just saying, like, you have evidence of government conspiracy. Why are you denying us? Like, and she had to take it, I think she basically had to, like, wipe it off the face of the internet.
Holy shit.
Yeah, so she submitted that to us, and basically said, like, the only place this is ever going to be seen is at film festivals if you would like to screen it. And I'm just so taken with it. I'm, like, so... I think it's just going to be really beautiful to watch on a big screen. Just, like, very, like, captivating. Yeah.
Wow. Ooh, I'm excited. I'm excited.
Yeah. And that's just, like, a handful of our programming. We've got, like, 15 movies in total, and the shorts and all that. It's going to be a absolutely crazy weekend.
Oh,
I'm so excited. So... we talked a little bit about how you got into found footage, just kind of taking it back. But, like, what's your relationship to horror in general? Like, how did you get introduced to the genre? Was it something you grew up with? Like, kind of, what's your story with horror?
It was not something I grew up with.
Okay.
I was the biggest scaredy cat on earth. I was afraid of everything. I was afraid of seeing my own breath when it was cold. I wouldn't walk in sand. Like, I was so scared of the world. And, like, movies scared the shit out of me. Like, you know how everyone's like, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory terrified me? And the part that scared them is when they go through the tunnel on the boat, right? Nuh-uh. I turned that movie off when Augustus Glomp fell into the river and got sucked up the tube. I'm like, I know better. That kid's dead. I'm out. like, that's how far I got into that movie. That kid was dead, and I knew it. And then nightmares for, like, a week after that. Everything scared me. So it was very rare that I watched horror movies until... I was in my mid-teens, I think 14 or 15. I saw Silence of the Lambs in a class in school.
Excuse me?
A
class in school?
I want to know why that teacher thought Silence of the Lambs was an appropriate movie to show to an English class. It's literary, I guess. Yeah.
Wow.
But it, like, awakened something in me.
Okay.
I was, like, really, really interested in, like, feeling like, scared, like, in that moment. It was, like, 15 years old, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, maybe it's interesting to be a little bit scared. And then immediately I was like, Evil Dead. And then it was kind of like training myself not to have horrible nightmares every time I watch something scary. But it was like I went hard pretty fast after realizing it was something I enjoyed. But it was almost like I was scared of everything, and then I realized sometimes it could be fun to be scared, and then I realized if I harnessed my fear, it was sort of like taking control back in a way.
Yeah.
And so like horror has always been like really important to me for that reason. It's helped me feel more in control of like my own life, in this weird kind of way.
Oh,
right.
Yeah. Oh,
so
yeah.
It sounds like Silence of the Lambs was your first most impactful horror movie that you probably saw because it set you off on this trajectory. Do you remember seeing any horror movies when you were a kid, or any like of those movies that like popped up?
Yeah, I mean, well, the truth is, and this is probably going to eventually lead to the movie that I chose. Like, we didn't have cable or anything.
Same.
And so I didn't watch a lot of TV. And we rented a lot of movies. Like, we rented movies constantly, like from the library, from Blockbuster, from Hollywood Video, which still existed. And what wound up happening is I was really into junk, we learned. And so I would rent junk, like Mac and Me, for example.
Oh, God, Mac and Me.
And then we had the double VHS players.
Oh.
And I would record the movies I liked.
Fancy. All right.
A bootlegger from day one.
I know. I've been a bootlegger my whole life, man. Yeah, just like, born pirate. But, I got 2 peg legs, two peg arms, all pegs.
And a VCR.
Yes, yeah, exactly that.
All pegs and a VCR.
Yeah.
That sounds like a great band.
All pegs and a VCR.
Sounds like a fun cover band. Anyway, I digress.
But yeah, so like, I was super into Full Moon Kids movies. So Moonbeam was like the Full Moon Kids label.
Yep.
And like anything that had like weird creatures in it, I was like kind of into. And I think that's the closest I got to watching horror. I know my mom had us watch Poltergeist a little before that, and that was not a good experience.
I can imagine.
I can imagine. That ruined my shit when I was a kid, so I could, like...
Yeah, and I'm like 12 or 13, I think, when we watched Poltergeist, so, like, yeah, old enough that I should be okay with it, but I am sure not.
Okay. Oh, Terry. Sorry.
No.
I was going to say let's take a break, and then we can talk about the movie you brought, Madeleine. And welcome back from commercial break. All right. We have foreshadowed it, but Madeleine, what movie did you bring with you today for us to discuss?
Talking about full moon features. Like, this is, I don't believe this is full moon, but talk about those kinds of films, though.
So the movie I brought today was 1992's Munchie.
All right. So for many of you who are probably not familiar with this, but more than I expected, because when we've tweeted about this movie, people have been like, "Oh yeah, Munchie," and I was like, "What?" But anyway, in this is the plot synopsis from IMDb.
This is an all-timer.
This is an all-timer. In this in-name-only sequel to the 1987 film Munchies, the new kid in town, Gage Dobson, can't find his place in the new environment despite having such a cool name. Why is that in the synopsis? Who cares?
Gage Dobson is a cool name.
The kids at school bully him. The girl he likes and his mom is about to marry. What?
See, it doesn't make any sense. The girl he likes ignores him, maybe, but they leave that out. They leave that out.
He likes and his mom.
Yeah, and and why would we ever edit this? It's so much more fun reading the unedited plot synopsis. His mom's about to marry a scoundrel, but everything changes for Gage Dobson when he stumbles into Munchie, a friendly gremlin-like creature that dresses like a lounge singer, sounds like a stand-up comedian, and has magical powers.
Bravo, IMDb. Okay, before we do get into this movie, I just want to say that it was really funny when Mary Beth texted me that your choice was Munchie, and I was like, what the fuck is Munchie? And so I Google it, and I'm like, wait, Munchie or Munchies? Because I look at the poster for Munchies, and that was like one of those posters that terrified me as a kid. Like, it was kind of cool and creepy. It's this like gremlin-like thing looking up a woman's skirt, and I was like, "Are you sure we're not talking about that?" And she's like, "No, we're talking about Munchie." And I'm like,
because I was like, Madeleine was very specific that this was the terrible in-name only sequel to the actual horror movie. I was like, oh no, Madeleine knows exactly what is being picked here. And I'm so excited to hear your Scarred for Life story about Munchie. Like, so why is this your pick? Tell us the story about how you first saw this movie. Okay. What scared you about it? I want to know.
All right. So I've spent a lot of today trying to like piece the memory together because truthfully, I was quite young when I saw this. Okay. Honestly, the thing I'm using to kind of like realize when it was in my life is I knew it was before my parents' divorce. So...
Oh man, love a good divorce is a marker of memories. Isn't that fun?
Yeah. So I must have been like 6 or 7 years old, right?
Okay.
So my recollection is okay. So a little fun background. My mother was a treasure hunter.
What?
What level of seriousness of treasure hunter here? Like her full-time job or like side hustle?
I guess a side hustle is the real answer. So my mother, when, she was, like early 20s, she was like, I'm going to Grand Cayman. And she went to Grand Cayman and it was supposed to be like a week trip. And she went, I'm going to stay. So she stayed. And what she did to make a living was she was a scuba diver and she would take people out scuba diving and then she would go looking for golden doubloons while scuba diving. So she would actually dig up treasure to sell so that they could live in Grand Cayman.
Holy shit.
So for that reason, my mom has always had ties with Cayman and still has friends who live there. So that was like our vacation spot. So
I love this because my dad used to collect gold doubloons.
Yeah.
Like he had
Was he a treasure hunter?
No, he was a buyer of them. He would go to the local like coin store and buy doubloons and random ship stuff that people were selling.
I mean, my mom may have sold some of it to him, honestly.
I know, that's what I'm thinking.
Oh my god, Terry and Madeleine. The gold doubloon connection. That's my found footage movie. We're going to make a found footage movie about this. It's going to be haunted doubloons and...
Oh, I'm so into it. And honestly, underwater photography? Come on.
I mean...
Hello, bring it.
Anyway, okay.
We need to cut this part out and just start talking about it and like make it into a movie.
Yeah, I don't want anyone to take this. This is brilliant.
I'm sorry, but so she had connections to the Caymans.
So my recollection is we went to Cayman. So me, my little brother, and my parents. And we go to Cayman, and we go to her friend's house. And they're like, we'll just leave the kids in the living room, put something on.
Childbearing in the...
Famous last words.
Childbearing in the 90s?
Yeah, so it was Munchie. And it was definitely on TV or on a tape or something they had. Started watching halfway through. And when I was rewatching this movie yesterday, I realized that I thought it ended with a scene where he was dressed in white and dying. And that was part of the reason I was so terrified. And then I the movie ended and I'm like, why wasn't one of the scenes that terrified me, like the one that finally drove me to turn it off, in here? And I realized that's the start of the second movie of the third movie, I guess, but that's Munchie Strikes Back.
The third movie.
So I, as a child, watched half of Munchie and the first 5 minutes of Munchie Strikes Back, and then I had a meltdown and was like, I can't be here anymore. I need help. Because something about that puppet scared the living daylights out of me. I don't know why, because like I watched Prehysteria, I watched Pet Shop, I watched all this full moon stuff, but for the most part they're like kind of cute and small. Something about Munchie being the size of a child and his dead eyes and the way that his mouth moved and the way that he was always stiff and stuck in the corner, it just scared the shit out of me. I was so scared of him. I had nightmares for months that he was in my room. I had like sleep paralysis where I'm like in bed stuck and Munchie standing over me.
Oh no! Munchie is your sleep demon.
Sleep paralysis demon human Munchie.
And now I rewatched it and I'm like, this is fucking stupid.
I love it. Like, that's why I'm so glad you brought this movie, because it's so bad. But, like, I can see why it terrified you as a child. Because, like, I was watching it on my computer screen while I was working today. And my husband walks in and he's like, I'm sorry, what the fuck is that? And it was like a Munchie on the screen. And I said, oh my god, this is a Scarred for Life pick. He's like, yeah, no shit, I'm scarred for life now. If I ever come on the show, I'm bringing this movie. What is that? And I explained to him what it was. And I'm like, oh, and by the way, it's voiced by Dom DeLuise. And he's like, are you fucking kidding me? And he was like, I have to hear it. And so I turned off my headphones and he's like, what? And then I heard him go, this plot makes no sense. He's like Googling it on his work computer. Like, I don't understand.
It really doesn't make any sense. I mean, so like the other thing I want to mention is I've never seen Munchies. I've never watched Munchies.
Okay, cool. Because I was going to ask, have you seen
adult?
Munchies? Have you experienced it? Because we have not. I haven't, Terry. I don't know if you have, Terry.
No, I have not. I have only seen that poster and that VHS tape that my parents, again, because it had a suggestion of sex on the cover, would not let me watch. Because they came to this point where my parents are like, you can watch gory shit, but nothing that has any sex, and then it became nothing at all. And so that was off limits. I don't know what happens in it, but it was off limits. My
impression is it starts kind of like Gremlins, where they find Munchies, and then it is a little bit like 80s boy sex comedy.
Yeah, that's what I watched the trailer, and it very much had that vibe of like horny boys and a lot of shots of boys in bed with girls and stoner boys, and then these weird little gremlin monsters that look nothing like what Munchie looks like in this movie.
No,
like,
they don't.
They almost look like dinosaurs. Like, they don't talk. Yeah. They're not humanoid at all. They're just like, blah, 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 blah. Like, again, more like Gremlins, because I think Roger Corman wanted to make his version of Gremlins, which is what Munchies is. And, like, in trying to do research for this episode, because I was like, well, okay, I have to understand the continuity. Dear listener, there's nothing. There's literally no connection. Like, even when you Google it, barely is it mentioned as a sequel on any article or even on the Wikipedia page. So there is no connection other than name for real between these movies. Like, they are, because Munchie in this is a werewolf looking motherfucker.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, if you just put a bunch of fur on him, he'd just be a werewolf. So he's like a nude werewolf, but he's then wearing a leather jacket.
He's got alopecia.
It's a horrible looking creature. I hate him.
Like, who decided? Like, and this is another Roger Corman movie, but then he just went a totally different direction with Munchie.
I would love to hear the conversation that resulted in, like, them being like, oh, this could just be a sequel to Munchies. Like, what do you think? The idea happened first, or like the idea of doing a sequel?
I gotta wonder.
I can't wrap my head around it, and I couldn't find anything.
No, nothing.
There's nothing out there except that the company is the same. And I'm wondering if they're like, well, we own this property. Kids like weird things. Let's combine this. Watching this movie, all I kept thinking was, this is like, all the big rage right now is people putting in story prompts into AI. And so I'm thinking, someone said 1992 kids movie Munchies. And it's like, here we go, because this movie makes not a lick of sense. It feels as if someone who has observed human reality is now trying to replicate a successful movie from that time period and failing miserably. Yep. It has like everything about this movie feels uncanny valley. Like, it's just one step removed from reality.
Yeah. And like, another thing worth mentioning, Munchies is set in the late 80s. Munchie opens in 1970.
1970.
For some reason.
Fuck continuity, man.
It opens with just...
We're New Concord films.
And then there's a car chase with Dom DeLuise just, like, saying one-liners.
Like, just mumbling.
Into the nothingness. You have no idea where his voice is coming from. It's just sort of like he's sitting in the booth, like, winging it, and they're like, put it in the movie. Like...
The guy that's driving is not saying a lick of anything. He looks at the box once in a while that's glowing green, I guess to symbolize that he's speaking, but he just doesn't say anything. He just sort of like, oh, I'm driving. I'm not talking.
I want to know what Munchie did to that guy.
I know. I mean, that's throwing down a bottomless pit, which, by the way, bottomless pits in movies kill me, especially when like all of a sudden it's like crunk, you hear it falling, like right? Like how bottomless was it?
Bottomless pit in a horror movie. I really do. Yeah, no, like the setup is nothing. It's not even a set. It's like barely a setup. It's just like, what is this thing? Where did it come from? Who gives a shit? Like he just is a sassy. We don't know what it even is. It sounds like a person. So like as far as we know, there's a dude, just a dude in the box.
I mean, it is kind of revealed. Like we can talk about like can we spoil the?
Munchie? My god!
Oh
yes,
we can spoil Munchie for everyone.
I don't even know if it's really possible to spoil Munchie, but
it's already spoiled.
Yes, but
But like later in the movie, it is revealed that Munchie is some sort of like elder god or something. Like there's all these drawings of like ancient Egyptians with like Munchie there, and then like a Buddha with Munchie behind him making a face. I'm like, I want someone to get that tattooed on themselves.
I must have missed this part.
My god.
I don't remember this at all. When did this happen?
When Munchie... Okay, so... All right.
Is this with the scientist across the street?
This is what
okay.
What is his name?
I did briefly tune out at that point when he's like, all of a sudden, you got to leave this with me.
Professor Crookshank?
Yes. Crookshank?
Crookshank.
The neighborhood mad scientist just hanging out.
Yeah, he's got like a Doc Brown across the street.
Yep.
So like Gage is our main character. Then he's got his hot mom who does nothing but smile and look pretty. And that is Lonnie Anderson.
Yes.
Lonnie Anderson.
When I saw she was nominated for Emmys, I was like, oh my god, and she was in Munchie?
Oh hell yeah. And then, okay, so Gage has a crush on a little girl it is Jennifer Love Hewitt's first role.
Jennifer Love Hewitt's debut role.
Like, what a stain on her career.
She just gets to smile, too, speaking of people that smile. All she gets to do is go...
I think she's only credited as Love Hewitt. Like, the Jennifer
I saw
came
that
later.
Where I don't understand.
I didn't look into
Love
that.
Hewitt is a sick name, though.
It is.
It really is.
But, right, so the mom... And then there's the mom's boyfriend who I guess they've been together for 2 months. And he's like, I'm going to get married and get rid of you, little shit, to the kid. And so...
He looks like a knockoff Tom Selleck /
does.
Very much
like
skeezy.
Pierce Brosnan looking.
Yeah.
With a porn star mustache.
Yeah. And that guy's pretty good at physical comedy, honestly.
He was.
He sells it.
Yeah, he is.
And like, it very much is the most like 90s 80s setup of like the new kid is there, everyone bullies him, everyone's mean to him, his mom is a single mom, like a hot single mom who has a shitty boyfriend, and he's like the loner kid who gets bullied all the time and he gets in trouble, and but I do kind of love that he meets his new best friend. His new best friend is just like a misogynistic weird elder god who just like loves pizza and it is just kind of gross and like wants boot
and jokes that aren't really
jokes. He doesn't tell a single joke, if you ask me.
No, he just like makes observations. And like I know observational comedy is an art form. It's not here though. It's it feels like someone just gave Dom DeLuise like a line of coke and said just whatever you want to say.
That guy is a pain in the bumper.
Like
it's funnier when you say it.
My favorite thing, the biggest one I struggle with is alphabet soup. I keep dropping all the letters, and I'm like, I feel like that was supposed to be a joke, but it's just literally him explaining I can't summon alphabet soup because I can't bring the letters.
Again, AI prompt that doesn't understand humor. Seriously,
it's incredible.
So another thing probably worth mentioning is this movie was written and directed by Jim Wynorski.
Yes, who did Shopping Mall?
Yes, Jim Wynorski is like a top tier B movie sex director. Like that, most of what he did was like sex movies that were like horror knockoffs. Yeah,
he's still working.
Is he really?
Yeah.
Attack of the 50-Foot Cam Girl.
Oh, that's right. That was
2022.
They bought ads on our website. Good for him.
Bigfoot or Bust, Giantess Battle Attack, Co-Brigader, a lot of sci-fi movies in the
Good for
in
him.
the, like,
I bet
2000s.
you he gets a decent check to make these dumb movies, and I respect that to a degree. But Munchie and your filmography, I want to interview him just about Munchie.
Honestly, I wish someone would. I'd love to know why it happened.
Well, they put it out. I think Shout Factory put it out on Blu-ray, but I don't know if what the special features are and if they have anything like that on there.
I'd be very curious to see if like there are any interviews or like a commentary or something, because I'd be just so curious to understand like why this movie exists.
Did he do the third one too? I think
he did.
Did he direct the third one?
Yeah, like back to back.
He's stuck with Munchie.
He did.
Like he must have believed in it, or he got paid enough to
probably
believe in it.
got paid enough. He seems like the kind of guy who like he gets paid, and then he makes movies. Yeah,
he's like, yeah, sure, I'll make your weird naked werewolf puppet movie.
I mean, he is like the only thing I think he cares about is really like getting boobs in his movies. Yeah,
so there's an unfortunate little bit of trivia that I saw on the IMDb page that I don't know. Again, it's not, there's nothing to attribute it, so I don't know, how true this is, because you never know, anyone could edit IMDb, but it says, he normally makes R-rated sex comedies and horror films full of naked women, said after seeing a grown-up Love Hewitt years later in I Know What You Did Last Summer, that he wished he could have directed her in one of his other films, because seeing her naked at that point would have made it a huge success.
I am sure he said that.
I was going to say, like, I don't think that's probably I think that's probably a direct quote, because he definitely gives me creepy old man vibes.
I grabbed another quote from him that I wanted to share.
Please.
Because I was looking for any interviews about this movie, and I could not find any.
No,
same.
There's nothing. It's weird. I'm like, is this a real film?
Yeah. I did find an article that talks about him, and it quotes something he said in a documentary about making softcore porn, and the quote is, "Big breasts are the cheapest special effects in the business."
Okay.
I thought that was kind of incredible.
It is. I mean, it is.
Yeah. I'm trying to just like to unpack it, and like, I mean, I suppose you're not.
I know,
wrong,
right?
But
I'm not sure. It doesn't make me feel good, but I don't think I'm offended.
But it makes sense for
like I'm really,
kind of the films that he's making. Like, it makes sense that he would say that.
The cheapest special effect.
I mean,
this is the mind that made Munchie a children's movie.
Which I think you can see by watching this movie, because this movie is fucking horny.
It's really horny.
There's not a lot of tits, just some tits.
No, but there's it's horny.
Oh yeah, it's disgusting.
Yeah, like that little kid, he wants to fuck, right? I mean, one of the weirdest parts of the movie is like Munchie throws a party in the kid's house.
That's like the whole last act is Munchie throwing a party in the kid's house to get him laid.
Yeah, it's like a weird,
the kid is like 10.
It's like a teen, like high school house party, and like
it turns into like American Pie.
And he's inviting all the kids, and they're all showing up with their parents because they're children and they can't go to a party at night by themselves, so their parents are like chaperoning them.
But
there.
then, like, the principal and his girlfriend show up to his house.
So weird.
And then he, Munchie calls, like, celebrities to show up.
Yeah.
Like, it's, and it, like...
He uses the voice of Jack Nicholson
at one point. I was trying to figure out what the voice was. I was like, I know that this is supposed to be a parody of something, but I don't know what it is.
I was just using context clues because he said Jack.
Oh, it's Jack Nicholson.
He was doing the kind of shining voice, and I was like, okay.
Well, I also think
this is weird.
Something that terrified me watching is not just the puppet. Was I think Dom DeLuise's voice actually kind of scares me.
Yeah, me too.
I remember because he had a voice role in a ton of shit I watched as a kid, but I think he had one in.
He was in Secret Nim.
He was
Jeremy the
Raven.
Crow.
The Crow. But then he also had, I think he had a voice role in All Dogs Go to Heaven.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which is
Itchy.
Which is a movie that has ruined my life, that ruined my brain forever, and so that movie scared me.
Uh-huh.
And I think Dom DeLuise being in that movie scared me, so his voice just like takes me back to just like, why does this man's voice bring terror into my heart? So it really was a 1-2 punch.
He was Tiger in American Tail.
He was also in American Tail.
Manhattan Island.
I mean, he was in so much stuff. Like he has such a distinctive voice. So like, I love that he was Munchie, because honestly, I feel like his voice matches like the skis bag, like sleazy creature that Munchie is, but it just makes it all the more disarming. Just like,
I mean, I love that 2 years later he didn't come back to be Munchie again. He was like, I'm not doing that again.
If he was in Munchie too.
He gave it up. He's like, I can't.
Like, let me find the name of the individual who played Munchie in Munchie Strikes Back, because it's another like old comedian. So still creepy, but not as scary. But I do think probably as a kid it scared me extra when his voice suddenly changed, because it's unpleasant.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah.
It's Howard Hessman. Yeah. It looks like he was in Police Academy films. He was in Flight of the Navigator, but I believe he was also like an old comic.
Oh,
interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
Holy cow! Andrew Stevens returns for Munchie Strikes Back. He was the creepy husband, want-to-be husband.
He's
the boyfriend,
creeping on another woman in the second one. Yeah.
Weird that he's like the carryover from that one.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah, it kind of opens with Munchie with Gage like at like a college party. Then Munchie is like, turning real hot and weird, and then I think the school blows up, and some like star collective like heaven group, they summon him and they're like, we're gonna punish you for being bad on Earth. I like, honestly, I watched the first half of it earlier today, like while I was at work, and I'm like, holy fuck, is this crazier than Munchie? Like,
what is this? What have you brought to us?
What is this?
What is this? Is this like an interdimensional object that exists just to baffle the minds of the few who have stumbled across
like it, right?
It feels cursed. Yeah. It's weird. I mean, everything about it
cursed.
Feels bizarre.
This is definitely a cursed film. Yeah.
So I'm trying to watch this movie 2 nights ago, and I'm like, what is happening? And we get to the point with like Gage, who is like, he sees Carlisle Elliot, I think is his name, with his mom, and he calls him a creep, and then he goes to kick rocks, and he's walking, and he says, "Someday I'll be dead. Then they'll all be sorry." And I went, because like where I was watching, it didn't have subtitles, and it was kind of, the voice was a little quiet, and I was probably not paying complete attention, and I went, wait, what? I had to rewind it, and it's like, no, he says someday I'll be dead, and then they'll all be sorry, and then he has an imagination of him being in a casket at his funeral, and I'm like, what the fuck did Madeleine bring us?
Did you catch who was the like I don't know, the funeral man, the mortuary guy?
It's Angus Scrim,
it's like
right?
an Angus Scrim cameo all of a sudden.
Love a Phantasm reference in a children's movie from 1990. Yeah.
I mean, that's like part of what's so weird to me. Is like, I think about all the movies I liked when I was young, and now I'm realizing that they were almost all made by men who mostly made schlocky horror.
Oh.
Yeah. Because, like, all those full moon movies, I'm trying to think, like, Mac and Me is by Stuart Raffle, who also made Tammy and the T-Rex. So it's like...
that's right.
So I was watching all this stuff, which was kind of schlock horror, but with the horror stripped out of it, and I'm like, this is what I like as a child.
Honestly, it foreshadowed things to come. You didn't think you liked horror, but guess the fuck what? You were priming yourself by watching maybe even weirder shit. Which I kind of love.
Okay, so talking about Munchie in particular, we talked about his voice, and the thing that got on my nerve is his constant use of pal. Followed you home, pal. Real simple. Magic, pal. Like, he's like constantly throwing pal around. He's
like your creepy uncle that like won't leave you alone and just wants to hang out. Yes. And he's like, I'll let you drink a beer. And you're like, dude, I'm 10. Like, leave me alone.
I'm gonna order pizza.
Like, I don't want to party, but sorry, he reminds me of like a weird family member who's like too obsessed with the kids, and you're like, get away, like you're so weird.
But you mentioned earlier, Madeleine, about how like he has the soulless eyes, and what drew me initially, well, not drew me, but like what kind of terrified me originally is like this looks like a reject Chuck E. Cheese doll that they had tried to like create for Chuck E. Cheese, because Chuck E. Cheese, particularly back in like when I would have gone in like the 80s and early 90s, they looked horrifying. Yeah. Like I thought, even as a kid, I was like, there's something off about these, and it's their eyes. Their eyes just feel so dead, and him just blankly staring. And his mouth isn't quite moving with the words that are being spoken. Yep. It's just, he's a lie.
It's just like double eyelids, and the fact that like his pupils are so small and the whites of his eyes are so big. And like he looks like a Chuck E. Cheese puppet that was in a fire.
Yes.
Someone tried to clean him.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
That pizza, though.
That pizza. I mean, I'm from New York, so I didn't like that pizza.
No, that pizza looked gross. When it was like being served on the table, I was like, that looks like plastic. And then it starts to like levitate and fly. And like, there's a minor little bit of a plot where the chef's chasing after with a butcher knife down the street.
Just running through the streets with a knife. Also, probably something that scared me.
The cop stopped him, and the fucking pizza is still flying through the air. And that's one of his powers is to summon food from wherever. I was like, I guess that's certainly a magical power you could have. And like, once again, when we find this out, we have no idea what the fuck this is, why he is, who he is.
Yeah.
There's nothing. And we really don't get much. Like, we don't ever really get much.
Yeah. Think about all the bugs that pizza probably hit.
I did.
It's just like covered in bugs.
I'm like, it would have been so much easier just to order delivery, I feel like.
Yeah. Yeah. Or like summon a pizza that was already in a box, please.
Yeah. I mean...
But Munchie has like a kind of like the monkey's paw, I guess, is what they were kind of going for. Because like the kid just like makes a bunch of wishes and then they come true and they all kind of blow up in poor Gage's face. I do think it's funny how no matter anything that happens in the movie, it's all of a sudden Gage's fault. He might not have even been there. Like with when the principal is hitting on his assistant in the room and all of a sudden it's like being broadcast, he immediately blames it on Gage. And I'm like, how would it be Gage?
It is funny that all the consequences are exactly the same. Which is, people think that it's his fault, which it is, in a way.
Yeah.
So it is almost like not even consequences. It's just like not monkey's paw consequences, but just like regular old consequences.
And he just keeps saying, but I got the blame. I took care of Mr. Again, GQ for you.
I want to know what he did to that guy who dropped him in the bottomless pit. I really do. Because Munchie seems to be generally pretty great.
Terrifying, but yeah.
Would you party with him?
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. Me too. I think I would.
Yeah.
For like a couple hours, and then I try to like lose him.
Mostly for the picture. Yeah, I wouldn't want him to have my personal information.
I think the 50th time he called me pal, I would just be like, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm out.
Yeah,
hey,
but
pal.
I would actually go to a party that Munchie was present at and try to get a photo of him.
Yeah, you would. That's amazing. I wouldn't talk to him, but I get a picture and say I was at a party with Munchie.
Exactly. Yeah, look, he's real.
Oh god, I don't want to be on this earth if that's a real creature at parties.
Oh, then the other thing that's absolutely wild is the very end of the movie, which is for some reason Munchie and the professor go on vacation together.
And Munchie's in a box?
Yeah, he's in the box, but then the plane starts taking off, and then a bunch of people are like, oh my god, the pilot's right here, who's flying the plane? And you see Munchie's flying the plane with the professor as his co-pilot.
I was like, I get why Munchie would do this, but why are you involved?
And also Gage like laughs. He's like, "Oh, Munchie.
Oh, Munchie. Classic Munchie."
This is how
This is very much AI wrote a fucking movie. Like none of it none of the logic makes sense, but like it has those those beats of like a 90s or 80s like kids monster movie, but without any of the actual logic or connective tissue.
I'm going to take Final Destination and cut the shots of Munchie flying the plane.
Oh my god.
Right before the plane takes off.
Yes. Oh my god. Yes. Yes. Yes.
I believe that this needs to happen. This is the fan film we've all wanted, the Munchie Destination.
I do love that it tries to give a moral, because there's like a throwaway line. It is almost a completely throwaway line where it's like the third or fourth time that the Gage has gotten in trouble for something that the Munchie has done. And his response is, you should never have asked for something unless you really want it.
Again, that was supposed to be some kind of impactful line that like had all this meaning, and you're like, what does that mean? Like,
that doesn't mean anything.
Because then he follows it up by calling. That's when he starts to use the Jack voice and tries to start calling people. So it's like immediately from like the moral of the story to like, now we're going to fill your house with a bunch of adults that are drinking. Because this makes perfect sense.
Love that on top of this, the mom's boyfriend is like, you should beat your kid. That's why he's this way.
Yes.
Like,
isn't that strange?
Like that part to me was really menacing with the boyfriend. I was like, he's fucking disgusting and predatory.
Especially,
like,
yeah,
the line he uses. There's only one type of punishment he'll understand. You've turned him into a mama's boy, or something even worse.
I was waiting for him to say like a slur or like call. I was waiting. I'm like, what is it? Huh? What's worse?
There was a couple times I was waiting for the F word to get dropped here.
I was like, say it. Do it.
That's something I've learned about 90s comedies. Is they say a lot of slurs.
They sure do. Rewatching Monster Squad, and like within the first 5 minutes of the modern day thing, and they're dropping the F word, and I'm like, what is even happening?
Not to reveal my obsession with Devon Sawa, but Idle Hands is real rough.
Oh,
yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah,
I haven't watched that since I was in high school. I don't think
it is a lot of words that we do not use anymore, and so much. Just like the female characters is pretty much just being molested by everyone. It's very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, the 90s, what a terrible decade.
Certainly a time where we were not really in control of ourselves and really just went for it.
Yeah, I was a 6-year-old watching Munchie at a house on an island.
By yourself, where your parents like,
yeah. Yeah.
I love that. We'll just give Munchie will watch the children. That's a Monkey's Paw scenario if I've ever heard one.
Yeah, it is.
I just remember like hiding on the stairs.
Oh.
You know, like so I could see the TV like through the banister. Yep. You know, like the railings, but being like, I'm just so fucking scared of Munchie.
So yeah, because you'd mentioned that when you stopped, it was when Munchie dies. Is that what happens in the sequel?
He gets summoned to some sort of space council.
Okay, it was that. All right,
or like not even space council, but like afterlife council, because like Elvis and Cleopatra are there, and Colonel Sanders, I guess, because
yes,
like,
our cosmic beings.
Yeah, like I think maybe it's like cosmic beans, cosmic beans.
Yes, the cosmic beans.
Phenomenal fiber content.
Oh yeah, they were totally regular. But okay, so that's what like was the straw that broke your back. But it was because he was so creepy? Is that what?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, he scared me. I knew that he wasn't safe. Yeah,
dude's fucking making a car fly.
Yeah, and then a lot of stuff happening in that movie. Also, like the guy running around with the knife, Munchie flying the plane, which we just flew on a plane. I'm scared. Yeah, there was so much that frightened me, but I think it was really just Munchie himself.
Yeah, I understand that 100% because it's not the cute little friendo that I think they thought they were making. They instead made a nightmare being from the depths of hell.
Cosmic horror. Baby's first cosmic horror.
With his weird little rubber fingers as he's typing with his weird little sausage fingers as he's changing the grades.
What a weirdo.
Well, do we want to wrap this up and give it a rating out of 5?
It sounds good.
All right. Well, Terry, you are first up here. How many Dom DeLuise's horrifying voices out of 5 do you give this particular experience?
Oh, this movie was a hot mess. I don't even know how to qualify that, but it's not good. It honestly feels like a movie where someone said Monkey's Paw, kids, young adult movie, Munchie? and boom. Like, I don't, it does not feel of this world. And so for me, I 1.5
Okay.
of his voices. It's this was a delightful conversation, and I'm having a blast talking about it, but the actual art of watching that movie, not exactly the greatest. What about you, Mary Beth?
So I'm gonna give it 2 because of that otherworldly aspect of it and how it feels so disconnected from reality, and how I want to suggest this at a movie night with my friends. Like, this is an experience that was not probably meant to be such an experience, but it is still an experience to be had. And I'm glad I watched it. It's, I feel...
You imbibe something and you get your friends together, and...
I feel like I now maybe understand the world a little bit more, and I'm more terrified of it now that I know that Munchie, even if he as a puppet, just exists somewhere. And that fear alone, I give it to Dom DeLuise's terrifying.
Do you think a Munchie is just chilling in someone's storage?
100%. Either storage or like someone's office.
It?
Oh my god, we have to find it.
Yeah, just like I'm like obsessed with the puppet from the Interpol music video for Evil. I just want to get that puppet so bad. I want that puppet. Now I want Munchie.
Okay.
But I'm only attracted to one of them.
And it's Munchie.
I'll never tell.
Sexuality is Munchie.
My sexuality is Munchie. On that...
Dom DeLuise's voice, man. He could just get me into the sack. Hey, pal.
Drier than the Sahara. Anyway, Madeleine, you have the final word. What is your rating for this beautiful film? How many Dom DeLuise voices?
5 out of 5.
Again. All right. Respect. I respect it.
Genius. Gold. Encryption key to my taste. I love it.
Do you watch this movie a lot, or is this the first time you revisited it?
I definitely have revisited it. But it's probably been, maybe 20 years.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, I would have watched it again shortly after becoming okay with watching stuff. And then it's been a long time.
Right.
This might be my first time watching it as an adult, but you know what? I loved every second of it.
I respect it.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you so much, Madeleine, for introducing us to the wild world of Munchie. Where can our listeners find you? And the floor is yours. Plug away.
You can find me just about everywhere at DVD Box Set, on Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd. I have very good username continuity, so DVD Box Set. I run a podcast with my lawyer, which we post episodes sometimes. It's called Madeleine and Her Attorney Watch Movies. I watch movies with my lawyer, and then we talk about them. And the Unnamed Footage Festival, badges are on sale right now. If you just, search Unnamed Footage Festival, you will find us. You'll find our website, unnamedfootagefestival.com. Buy a badge. Come hang out with us. It's going to be our best year ever, and I'm very, very excited for it.
So excited.
It's March 23rd to the 26th. Yeah.
Come say hi.
We're going to be there. Everyone cool's going to be there, so come hang. And are you doing a digital version of the festival this year?
We will have a virtual probably in fall.
Cool.
Kind of what's happened with the virtual is the first time we did the virtual was the first year of lockdown when we couldn't have one. So we came up with this idea of doing like a live stream festival, and we did it again last year because it was such a hit and people kept asking for it. But truthfully, we didn't have that much bandwidth. So we're trying to find a way where we can do it. And like, I think a big part of that is going to be to give us 4 or 5 months after the festival proper.
Yeah.
But most of it's already programmed because the truth is we get so many movies that we love and want to show, and you can only pack so many movies into a long weekend. So it's kind of all the stuff that we like really wanted to show people that we couldn't fit in the theater.
Cool. Hell yeah.
So there will absolutely be another virtual.
Hell yeah.
Hoping it'll be another overnight live stream, but we'll have announcements on it
Cool.
soon.
Sweet.
And listeners, check the show notes because you'll find links to the festival page and all of that for all of your clicky goodness.
Thank you.
All right, listeners, you've heard from us. We want to hear from you. Did you see Munchie? What were your thoughts about Munchie? Is Munchie scary to you? You can let us know by sending us an email at scarredforlifepodcast@gmail.com. Or you can reach out to us directly on Twitter. I am at MV McAndrews.
And I'm McGailey Dreadful.
And of course, don't forget to follow the podcast at Scarred Podcast.
Please don't forget to review, rate, and subscribe. And if you want to help support us, sign up through Patreon.
Thank you to Eric Power for our artwork. Thank you to Sean Keller for our music. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Please stay safe out there. But most importantly, stay creepy.
And until next time.